name is Anna Berenberg, and yes, I have 27 years of experience, and 13 of them at Google. And I'm area tech lead for cloud networking, responsible for all the load balancing and network services. This is my first non-technical presentation, so please stay with me as I take you with me on a journey, looking through my career and realizing that actually the most important part of it was perseverance and not to quit even when it seems like the most logical choice. Almost every slide that is going to be here is going to be an opportunity to quit. So even if I forget to say something about not quitting, think how it relates to it. So my roots are actually very close from here. I was born in Ukraine, and I lived there for 18 years. It's, 8.5 hours by the car with traffic. And then here's a picture from my freshman year from a college. And as you can see from 25 people, here there's 15 women and 10 guys. And from my whole batch of computer engineering peers, we had 50% men and 50% women. The fun fact that the computer science guys and gals, there were out of 198 of them women, and only 2 were men. And that was 1985. So now if you look at this graph, and the arrow points to the time when I graduated, I was in college, right? So you can see that's the famous graph that talks when women stop coding. And so what had happened with that medicine and law continued to go up and up and up, and the software engineering, women stop going into software engineering. What it did to me, I actually didn't question myself because everybody were women around me, or at least half of them were men and women. I never questioned myself whether I'm good enough in terms of coding or just engineering because, well, there were half of us, half of them. And that actually changed my career. And I feel that in today's world, the girls who come, they have to fight it out. So they have it harder than me, and I feel for them. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes from Susan Wojcicki, who is CEO of YouTube. Opportunities, the good ones, are messy, confusing, and hard to recognize. They're risky, and they challenge you. And my opportunity obviously didn't come with a yellow bow on the top. So it's 1996, and I just immigrated in the United States, and I had a first job offer. And the offer was not for software engineering position, but rather for language translation. And the translation was for the translating UI for a banknote manufacturer called Delaware Jewelry at the time. And what they wanted to print banknotes for Ukraine, and they needed somebody to translate UI from English to Ukrainian. Mind you, I haven't spoken language in 10 years, and I really didn't know what to do with it, but I said, I'll take the job. I got the dictionaries. I asked my mom, who was a teacher in Ukrainian school, for the help, and I said, I'm going in. So I got in. I looked at the amount of work, and I realized there is no way I can do it because there is a huge amount of words that I had to translate, and translating them through dictionary. At that time, there were no internet yet. So I had to figure out what to do with that, and so from the language problem, I made it a software problem. So I asked for help because I was a hardware engineer, so I needed a bit help with the software. So I asked somebody for help to write a script to check which words are actually used in UI. And from thousands and thousands of words, I went down to a few hundred. So I took these results to my manager, and I asked him, do you want me to translate thousands, or do you want me to translate 100? And he said, you're hired as a software engineer. And that's how my career in software engineering in the US have begun. And yeah, so a lot of stereotype. By that time, I figured out in US that there was a lot of stereotypes about what considered to be a man profession versus women profession. And in man profession, you can think of a firefighters, a pilot, a construction worker, and guess what? A software engineer. And even in software engineering, there are also stereotypes. A woman supposed to do a QA, a web design, a front-end work. And here I was interested in a system design, in designing reliable distributed systems, in scalable fundamental infrastructure. So I was in, actually, for the business, for the mission of my life, is to prove that I'm as good as all the men around me are doing men's job. And I decided not to quit and fight the stereotype. So, but I didn't have to do it alone. I always had male allies because I had so many men around me. A lot of them wanted to help. And they actually, they don't even know how to help, but all they do is to look out for opportunity, advocate for you, and even in meeting, when they say, let her speak, it's stop interrupting, which is a big problem. So they're called male allies now. So recently somebody said this phrase, that ally is a verb. It's not something you are, it's something you do. And it's a very powerful phrase, and you should all talk to your male friends, peers, husbands, partners, whatever, to convert them to male allies. We need more and more of them. And I think one of the reasons I didn't quit the profession of just being an engineer is because of them. So everybody knows the values of mentors, right? They provide advice, they provide support, sometimes they provide a shoulder to cry on. But there is time comes in your career when you need more than that. When you're expert in your field and your career actually stalled, what do you do after that? I discovered this book by Sylvia Ann Hewlett, Forget a Mentor, Find Sponsor. It's a very interesting book that talks about a sponsorship. And a sponsor is a senior level champion who believes in you and trusts in your potential and invested in your success. So the most interesting thing about sponsorship that they provide you with an umbrella, so you can take risks, and then they're gonna take a fall for you, kind of. So the lesson here, you don't have to quit when you feel that your career is stalled. You need to figure out how to supercharge it again, maybe with using sponsorship or however else. There are these steps in your career. Personally, myself, I always knew I wanted to be an individual contributor. And it's probably because I wanted to prove that I can do just engineering without needing to do management. And I had a lot of North Star, for example, Jeff Dean, who is Google legend, who invented a lot of foundational technology like a Bigtable, Spanner, or TensorFlow. And even though there's this observation that management ladder is considered to be more successful, the leadership is actually about influence, impact, and inspiration, which you can achieve either way. You can be doing it through IC or through the management. And again, I had a lot of advice, mentorship, and suggestions to move to the management ladder, but I stuck to my guns and didn't quit my dream of going up to IC ladder. I've been at Google for 13 years, and I've seen a lot of my coworkers quit. Why? Because of change. change coming, and we need to learn to embrace the change and not become an obstacle to progress. And so when we quit, we should quit because we're looking for something and not because we're running away from the change. So everybody here probably heard of Linen book by Sheryl Sandberg. You're going to have one opinion or another, but one thing. Sorry. One thing is certain that one thing is certain that it's not good to quit early. Each and one of you are going to be mother or have been mother at some point in time, and decide to grow your children one way or another. But we have to. It's actually very flexible work, software engineering, and if you think about teachers, nurses, construction workers, or anybody else, they all work at shift. And at software engineering, they all work flexibly, so we can go and have parent-teacher conference, or we can go and have doctors visits. And it's not going to stop us from having a wonderful career. So there's no right and wrong way of raising the children. The important thing is don't quit. And here's a secret. Majority of people have imposter syndrome. And here's another secret. The more you grow in your career, the more successful you are, the more imposter syndrome you have. So you have to fight it. And in my case, I fought it. I'm fighting it with everything I have, and I'm using my strength and not concentrating on my weaknesses. And here's an example how I climbed the mountain, and it was so hard. It was really, really hard, and now I always remember that if I manage that mountain, I can manage anything else. McKinsey, a study on women in the workplace, found that 40% women in senior position and women in tech are the onlys. The onlys are the only women in the room. And so they're facing huge pressure to perform, and they're 1.5 times more likely to quit. And they're 1.5 times more likely to quit than people who are not their onlys. And we talked about obstacle, but what about why do we stay? We stayed when management believes in us, and when we are present at the table when the decisions are made, and when we have equal opportunities with the guys. And so I want to leave you with this and saying that while there are many opportunities, many paths to being successful software engineers, you only can get there if you don't quit. Thank you.